Yeah, this is the hall, the entrance hall, which almost appears to be a museum now because we have lots of celebrity stars, you know.
These drum sets, yeah, absolutely. Old Turkish guy.
Yeah, that's a cool DW kit.
There's a fountain too.
Right, but I would say,
This one.
really, from what I understand, Zildjian started to be open at night when the Beatles were so popular. The demand for Zildjian cymbals was so high that they had to open the third shift at night because they could not make enough cymbals for everybody on the planet that wanted Zildjian cymbals, thanks to this guy. I mean, this band, the Beatles. Yeah. This is a kit, autograph. I mean, really, this is a museum. And pretty amazing. Then on the walls, you could see all the ancient and historical stuff, tracing back the family back to 1623, I believe, in Turkey.
Yeah.
When it all started.
Pretty old, isn't it?
Yeah. You know. Also, you know, what a cool company to name a conference room the G. Krupa conference room. You know, I think that's amazing. This is where they make meetings, you know, where they have meetings time of G. Krupa. Very, very cool.
Jazz legacy.
Absolutely.
And sculptures also.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
Yeah. And then we can go to the artist.
Yeah.
Now, Alessandro, when you come inside here, this is like another museum of pictures. I mean, literally everybody is pictured here.
Elvin Jones.
And with, you know, taking different moments of their career, their involvement with Zildjian. And you could spend, I know I did, hours just looking at each photograph.
It's crazy, man.
You know, what equipment they were using and just some stuff that it's hard to imagine all in one place. You know, Trecu, Armand Zildjian and Steve Gadd, and Tommy Lee. Look at this. Dennis Chambers in 1996. This is 1993. I mean, Simon Phillips with a huge yellow kit. Steve Smith. Billy Cosby, you know, which some people don't know, but he loves drums and he's a drummer also. Look at this beautiful shot of Alex Acuna. I mean, it's incredible. I could spend hours here just to look at this stuff. Yeah. Right, you can comment on different haircuts. Really, like Facebook is doing the timeline feature now. This is really the timeline
for Zildjian.
I would say of the drum industry, because everybody has been touched by Zildjian, or Zildjian has touched pretty much anybody in the music industry one way or another. So I don't even think this is only about their company. This is really about
music
and the drumming in general. So pretty amazing. I mean, this is Steve Gadd autographed, Ringo.
You have people with electronic drum sets. They want to have a problem with playing with the rubber pads. You don't get the feel of a regular cymbal. The regular cymbal's too loud, so you need to have an environment where you can kind of bring it down, and you're not going to drive your neighbors nuts.
Yeah.
Gen 16 is a kit for you if you got an electronic kit. So the way it kind of works here is that the Gen 16 system, it's not a trigger, it's not playing a preset sample, and it's no MIDI or anything like that. It's actually a microphone cymbal, or AE cymbal, which is called acoustic electric.
Okay.
So it's actually what the microphone system's picking up is the core sound of this cymbal, and then putting it through a digital effects processor, which will kind of tone shape cymbals, whether you add some pitch shifting or some phase distortion or reverb to the system. But that's exactly, so Alessandro, let's give it a little bit of a, wow. So that's with no amplification. Okay, layers of the crash cymbals, yep. Loud as it gets.
That's loud. I mean, that's not loud at all.
Exactly, now put some amplification behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, what if today I'm feeling like playing some jazz?
Let's change your kit up. And add a little bit, change the Gen 16 settings as well. Drop the pitch a little bit, get a little jazz sound.
That's so nice, man.
There you go. No more playing the pizza slices on the old padded kits.
And you can get different sounds, and
Yep.
they're not loud volume, and
Nope.
it's awesome.
The Gen 16 DCP module, which we call the Digital Cymbal Processor module, has 20 patches per channels. The module has 5 channels, so you have up to 5 different cymbals to play with and tweak. So
Nice,
that
man.
is the Gen 16 system.
Thanks for helping me out with this, man. It's awesome. Thank you, man. Hey, Keith.
Yeah,
What is this room here?
I call this the room that is the secret cymbals.
The secret symbol?
Secret cymbals, because people always say, these are great. Do you have a room where like you hide the old cymbals? And I say, I said, no, we sell all we don't have old cymbals. But this room actually is old cymbals, and there's about a little under 10,000 cymbals in there.
10,000 cymbals.
10,000 cymbals in this room, and this room is these cymbals are owned by the family members, the Zildjian family, and they are cymbals that Vitas Zildjian had, and he collected, and he with his collaboration with Gene Krupa. And so actually there's a nice explanation of it, and maybe we'll take a look at that.
Hello everybody, as you can see I'm here with Keith Aleo, the Director of Education and Orchestral Activities at Zildjian. What's up, Keith?
Good to see you, Alessandro.
Good to see you. So, where are we?
We are in the orchestral room. This is where Zildjian has their artists come in to pick out hand cymbals.
Nice.
So for orchestras or schools, when they have cymbals that they need in the wind ensemble or the band or the marching band, this is where the artists can pick their cymbals.
So this is both classical and marching, right?
Yep, marching cymbals over there, and all classical cymbals here. We have the K Constantinople, we have the symphonic tone, K symphonic, and the classic orchestral. Stadiums are over there. It's a nice room.
Yeah, man.
There's a lot of cymbals in the room. A lot of cymbals in the room.
I see a snare drum in there.
Yep.
What is that?
You know, this is a sound room, so when artists come in and they want to listen to cymbals, the problem with this room is it doesn't sound like an orchestra hall.
Huh.
So oftentimes they'll pick cymbals and they'll be disappointed when they get them back in the hall. So we made a room that kind of sounds like a hall.
That room sounds like an orchestra hall?
It does.
Are you kidding me?
Let's take a look.
Let's check it out.
Let's take a listen.
So now we're in the room.
This is the Wenger sound room, and this room, like I said, creates the sound of an orchestra hall. Because when you test cymbals in the room, oftentimes artists get back and they say, well, it sounds so different in the hall. So what we've decided to do is create a room that provides the resonance and sound of an orchestra hall. We put it in a wood floor, and I can demonstrate it to you by...
Let's do it.
So clap your hands. I'll sound. Now if I change the setting, now clap your hands.
Whoa! That's crazy.
Yeah. So if you know, any picks up any sound, whatever.
Isn't that amazing?
And then you can make it like a small hall. Clap now.
Wow, man.
Or you can make it like a football stadium.
Whoa. That's amazing, man.
It's a great room.
Yeah.
Some players put it there just because they don't want too much resonance and they really want to hear it, and it sounds like they're all.
You are the Director of Education and Orchestral Activities at Zildjian. What exactly is the job of the Director of Education?
Yeah. Well, I have an interesting background in that I used to play in a symphony orchestra, and I was a full-time member of the Florida Philharmonic for almost 20 years, and I taught at the University of Miami.
Now you are teaching at Boston Conservatory, right?
I am. I teach at Boston Conservatory as well as working at Zildjian. So what happened was in 2003, like many orchestras, there was a financial crisis and the orchestra went through hard times. This job at the Zildjian company opened up, and I thought, this is a wonderful opportunity. So I took the interview, which I had never taken an interview in my life.
You're taking one now too?
Yeah, I am. But I took the interview and I said, I'm not sure if I'm qualified for a business position, but they said, we really want someone that's a player, performer, and a teacher. And so I was given the position.
Was you?
And I showed up. I said, well, that's... So they helped me along in the first year because I didn't know some of the business stuff. And so what happened was they said, look, don't worry about that. You can teach someone business, but you can't teach someone how to love music and to teach music. So I was very fortunate and I got the position. The position is several areas. Artist relations is a big part of it. So I work with all the top orchestras and schools in the world, including Berkeley, the Royal Conservatory in London and Amsterdam, Juilliard, Eastman, all the schools.
That's awesome.
And my job is also marketing, so I do all the trade shows, educational trade shows like the Midwest Band Convention, Gen, the new Gen show, Percussive Art Society conventions. So I also do advertising and all the magazines. It's a pretty big job. I can just go on and on.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's a good job. I get about 100 to 150 emails a day, so I do a lot of.
So you spend your free time checking your emails.
That's right. I work with a lot of the artists that come in, and it's good because I have experience as a player. So when they pick cymbals, I'm able to help them.
Yeah, you know how to advise them. Maybe the sound you're looking, this cymbal is more appropriate.
Exactly. The Zildjian Scholarship is primarily through Cragie Zildjian, and Cragie feels very strongly about education and what the company's responsibility to give back to the community and the students. So we provide scholarships to, I think it's 26 schools, and we give money to the schools. Some of the schools we endow. Again, Berkeley's a school we do, and we provide money, and that money is then given to students within the school for a scholarship. We also have a scholarship directly through Zildjian that's called the Cragie Zildjian Scholarship.
And that's by competition, right?
That is an actual competition, so you have to compete to become, to get awarded the scholarship. That one's $5,000.
That's nice.
So all this is online, you can take a look at it. And we have a lot of schools, Juilliard again I'm mentioning, but IU, Indiana University, and Cleveland Institute of Music. So all these schools, we provide scholarships for the students, and you're selected by the teacher. You go to the school and the teacher will select you to be awarded the scholarship. So it's a great program.
Nice.
I think Zildjian's education, I think we need to educate people on better cymbal playing and better performance and understanding sounds and how you make sounds. And I think the best way to do that is through educating via the website and videos, very similar to what you're doing. You're educating people on how to be a better drummer. I think we should do the same thing, maybe through cymbals specifically. So we are in the process of creating more and more educational videos for the Zildjian website, and I think that's the best way to look into the future and helping people understand what cymbal to pick for what. You open the catalog, and I remember there's so many things, and you say, well, I want
them all.
I want them all. That's the best. But no, you look at it and you say, you know, I play in a trio. I play in a jazz trio. What do I get? And I think it's important that the drumming community understands that cymbal works for this. This is the sound I'm looking for. Or in this room, when you look for hand cymbals, what do I want to do some really delicate playing? What do I pick? How do I pick that? And I think that's important, and we've been putting more and more videos online. So that's where my commitment is.
Sure. Well, the job, artist relations, has a few different definitions, but I guess first and foremost is I'm one of the people here. There are a number of us that do this job, but you know, we're the contact person for the artist when they need support, whether they're on the road, in the studio, you know, want to try some new cymbals, maybe have some ideas. It's myself and my team are the people here at Zildjian that work with them. And artist relations actually started with Armin Zildjian back in the 1940s and 1950s when he was working for his dad, Avidus, and he was going out to see Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson and Gene Krupa and all those great drummers from that period. And the whole idea of artist relations was born then, and I was lucky enough to start working here in 1989 with a great program to work with. And I'm just sort of the guy that's running it right now, and there'll be somebody after me and somebody after that and someone after that. So, well, it's sometimes, you know, I have to sort of step back. I still, there are times, even though I've been doing this for a long time, and somebody like Steve, who's my good friend, I'm sort of past the idea of being starstruck, as it were, you know, because it's a job, you know, it really is, it's a job. But I do have to step back sometimes and remind myself and think, wow, you know, this is pretty heavy. It's pretty cool, but it's also pretty heavy to be the person that they depend on too, because they really do. I mean, someone like Steve especially, where you know, he's not someone that I won't say he's not easy to get close to, because he's a great guy, but you know, Steve is a busy guy that really, you know, depends on me as when he needs something. He wants to know that it's going to get taken care of, and those kinds of things. So it's a big responsibility, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, and something that I don't take lightly. And I think you have to get past, when you do this job, you have to get past the idea that you know, it's all about hanging around and schmoozing, and it's work, you know, and people depend on you. That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. You know, I'll start by saying that the program for us, the artist relations program, is a big part of our business. You know, we're very supportive of our artists, and I'm lucky that I work for a company that has such a you know, a solid program and sees the value of what the artists bring to the brand. Because in a perfect situation, the artists are out there representing the Zildjian brand, and ultimately they're promoting our products and exposing them to drummers who see Peter Erskine or yourself or Steve Gadd or someone, and you know, that leads to them buying the products. I mean, it's very simple when you think about it, and I think not enough people really stop and think about what an endorsement program means. And I can be very long-winded about this, so I'll try to be very concise in my definition here. But I think what sort of happened over the years, when I started doing this, I started working in artist relations actually in 1985. My first job, I was only 5 years old, of course, at that time, but my first job in the industry was, I lived out in Los Angeles, and I was working for Simmons Electronic Drums, which at that time was the big electronic drum company. And I was first exposed to what this job is, and then later at Drum Workshop. And it's very different from the way it was then, in the sense that there are way more artists, like on everybody's roster. There are lots more companies, but it was a very special thing back then to be signed as an artist with a company. Endorsements weren't just given out, willy-nilly, as we say, back then. And so what's happened over the years is this, and I'll just, when I joined Zildjian in 1989, it was still very different, in that you had bands that were signed to record companies, and you had this sort of development process with a record company where bands were out there and they'd have a 3 or 5 year lifespan, maybe longer, and you created these relationships with record companies based on the longevity of that band, and you would sign an artist based on what you thought the longevity of that band was. And there was some partnership there, and there was some investment. And so if I got a phone call from the A&R person at Capitol Records saying, I just signed this band, blah, 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 he loves Zildjian, I'm going to have him call you, or his management's going to call you, and we're committed to this band, we've put $1 million into them, we've got a 3-album deal over 5 years, or something like that. That was enough for me to say, okay, I'm going to take a good, close look at this band and at this drummer. But now you don't have that. You don't have any record company involvement at all. We know what's going on in the record business. And so that's trickled back to what we do. So a lot of what people like myself and other people who work in artist relations are doing is, in a sense, guesswork. And you see people being signed, you see drummers that really have no kind of resume, in some respects, being signed as artists. And what that does is it just continues to lower the bar in terms of what the artist relations program really means to a brand. And I'll just say this, for Zildjian, there really has to be something there. There has to be something tangible that this artist can bring to the brand, whether it's being a teacher, being a great educator, being a drummer in a high-profile band, or maybe a working drummer who's getting some great exposure, just maybe even on a not so much a local level, but a national, yeah, maybe not necessarily international, but national level. But for us, there's still some criteria that needs to be met in terms of us signing an artist and how that all works. The problem is there's such a proliferation now of drum companies, cymbal companies, et cetera, that what a lot of companies are doing is, in a sense, just selling factory direct. What they're doing is they're signing up an artist, and they're saying, you're a local artist named so-and-so, and we'll sell you our products at 50% or 60% off the list price. And it makes the guy feel special, and that's great, but at the end of the day, he really should be going to his local drum shop to buy those products for probably the same price anyway. And so what all this has done is led to helping put drum shops out of business. We don't want to put drum shops out of business. We want to keep those drum shops thriving. So I hope that explains kind of where we're coming from and why we're much more selective about the artists that we sign. At the end of the day, again, I could look at our artist roster, and we already have a great number of artists on the roster right now. We could double that number tomorrow if we wanted to, just by basically signing a whole bunch of artists that really aren't quite there in terms of their level of visibility and exposure. Well, yeah, there's been a lot of fun things that, stories and things that I've done throughout the years with some of the artists. I remember the first clinic tour that I ever did with Kenny Aronof in 1993 in Mexico. We did about 10 or 12 dates, a couple of weeks in Mexico. And it was a great time, a great experience, and the fans were great. They were just so warm and inviting, and we had a lot of laughs. But in one case in particular, what we noticed was we would get to each venue, and we'd get there at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock to set up, and we'd have sound check at a certain time, and then we'd have doors and then the clinic. But what we found is we'd get there, and then if the clinic was going to start at 7, usually the PA system would roll in around 6:30, and everything just happened in the last half hour.
The last minute.
The last minute would be scrambling. But one time in particular, I remember this, and Kenny does too. We got to the clinic, and our distributor there was apologizing because they didn't have a lighting board for us. And all the other clinics that we'd done so far, 4 or 5 or 6 at that point, they had like a great PA system, and they had like a lighting board and a guy running the lights, so you'd have like a light show with Kenny up there playing to like John Mellencamp songs or something. And this one particular time, I said, "Oh, don't worry about that. We don't need to have a light board. Just a couple of lights on stage. That's fine. That's all Kenny needs." And so we get going, and Kenny's up there playing, and I'm sitting on the side of the stage, like behind Kenny, just to make sure he's okay. And I'm looking, and there's a guy sitting there he's got the plug in his hand to the lights, and he's plugging it into the wall and unplugging it, and plugging it in and unplugging it to make the lights flash. And I'm looking at Kenny, and he's looking back at me, going like, it was hilarious. And I think because as Kenny was going faster, he's going, unplugging, plugging, unplugging.
On time.
On time, to try to make it flash. So I finally just tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "You don't need to do that." And he thought I meant faster, so he starts going even faster. And I said, "No." So then when he finally understood what I was saying, he looked so disappointed. He was really bummed out. I said, "It's okay, just leave him on. It's fine. We don't need to have him." And he just, I think he didn't know what to do after that. He just kind of sat there. But it was just a funny thing. We laughed about it afterward. There have been a lot of fun times. I've traveled with Dennis Chambers a whole bunch of times on clinic tours, and he's always fun to travel with. He's a blast. And one time in particular, and there were many times when this sort of thing happened, but Dennis is always known for his clinics going kind of long. He gives long answers, and he answers every question that everybody has to ask. So the clinics end up finishing at like 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night, and then he signs his autographs.
It started at 2 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we're all just kind of like this. And I remember one in particular, I think it was in Denver, and it had been like a long day of travel. We had, had come from somewhere else in the U.S. that day, and got there and literally landed, went straight to the store, set up, or the venue, wherever it was, and we were just beat. And so he's signing, and it's really late. We finally go out to have some dinner afterward, and the only place that was open was like an IHOP. And we're sitting there, and we had our sales rep was driving us around, and probably the store owner. And we're sitting in this booth, crowded in this booth, and we're just exhausted. And I look over, and we're all kind of eating our whatever we're eating, and I look over, and there's Dennis in the corner, just passed out, he'd just fallen asleep with his hat on. It was just really funny.
So even the legends sleep.
Even the legends sleep. I don't know why, I just think about that because he was the one that was, so anxious to go out and get something to eat. We were starving. I said, "Dennis,
And he fell asleep.
There's nothing open now, And he's just like... But one other great story that happened just a few years ago when I was in London. We do a lot of these artist sessions and events that we do in London, and I happened to be there. And the day after that, I had lunch with Charlie Watts, who's a great friend and one of my heroes, when I started playing drums. And so we had this great lunch at this nice restaurant, and it's a beautiful spring day. And he says to me, "So where do you have to go now?" And I said, "Well, I'm pretty loose, Charlie. I can, He said, "Well, I have a few errands to run. Do you want to go up to Piccadilly and take a walk? Walk along the park and Hyde Park?" And I said, "That sounds great." So we start walking, and it's probably a couple of miles from where we were in Kensington up to Piccadilly. And it's just, we're walking along, and I remember at one point, someone just sort of was coming at us and stopped and pointed at Charlie and went, "Wow, it's you. It's great to meet you." And Charlie looks at me and he said, "Oh, I thought he was talking to you." I said, "No, Charlie, he's talking to you. He recognizes you." He's always very funny about that. So he shakes the guy's hand, and we keep going, and we're talking about drummers and jazz and all the things Charlie loves to talk about. And so we go to his shoe guy, the guy that makes his shoes for him, this custom-made shoes. We go in there and he's introducing me to all these people. This is what's so funny. And he's being very serious. He's introducing me as a very important person in the music business. This is the guy from Zildjian. He's very important. And the shoe guy's like, oh, nice to meet you. And he sees me wearing my, my store-bought Cole-on shoes, which I think are nice. But the guy says, well, when you're ready to see me, come see me. And I'm like, okay, I'm not ready yet. So we go to his shoe guy, and he said, so do you still have time? I said, yeah, Charlie, I'm totally free. So we go across the way to his shirt guy. We go into this place where they make his shirts for him. And I think he took one in a box with him, and then the others were sent, but he was, visiting his shirt guy. And I'm just walking along, and I'm just taking it all in, going like, this is amazing. These beautiful shops in London that make all these fine clothing, And so finally, it's about 4 in the afternoon, 4:30 in the afternoon, and he said, so, are you still good for time? I said, yeah, I'm great. Do you want to get a coffee or something? He said, yeah, that sounds good. And we look, and there's like a Starbucks ahead, and we went, well, I don't know about a Starbucks. And earlier, as we were walking along, he pointed out this restaurant along the way called the Wolseley, which is, I guess, a very, very famous, very nice restaurant in London. So he said, I know, let's have tea at the Wolseley. And I said, that's a great idea. It was just up ahead. So we walk over there. And it's, as I say, about 4:30 on a Friday afternoon. And I'm thinking it's going to be completely empty or because it's in between lunch and dinner. But sure enough, it's jam-packed with people. It's just loud. There's people at the bar drinking martinis or people having tea. 4:30 in the afternoon. Yeah, it's going crazy. So we go in there and we go up to the front. And I think Charlie said, 2 for tea? And this young girl that's working there said, oh, we're pretty busy. It's going to be about a 30-minute wait. So Charlie looks at me and we kind of went, yeah, okay, never mind. And we were just like turning around to leave to go to the Starbucks. And this man, like that manager or whoever comes out of nowhere running, grabs us both. Right this way, sir. And this table like opens. The guy knew who Charlie was, obviously, and the girl didn't. We wondered later if that girl still has a job. But this table just opens up. It's just like, there we were. And he kind of looks at me, Charlie looks at me, and he made some joke like, oh, they must know who you are. And I'm like, yeah, Charlie, no, I think they know who you are. It was very funny. We sat there, and within a few minutes, these people had come over, and one guy came over and starts talking to him, and his name was John also, and they're chatting about his house, and how's your wife, and great to see you, hope to see you again. And then he leaves, and Charlie said, that was Elton John's manager. And I said, oh. And then there was someone else came over that was somebody, and so it was pretty cool. And it was a great day. It really was. It was a kind of almost surreal to just kind of think about it. But he's just such a human guy. He's such a great person. He takes it all in stride. There's no ego there.
Well, I think one of the things that we see, Alessandro, is acoustic drum market is really shrinking at the expense of, we see more movement to the digital and the electronic drums. And Zildjian wants to participate in that segment as well. So we've just launched our Gen 16 product that I think that you've seen and previewed. So we're very excited about that, and I think we'll see more of a shift away from acoustics that are cumbersome to transport. They're very loud, so if you live next to someone in an apartment, that's not going to work. You're not going to be able to practice at night, and all those kinds of issues. We're very excited about that. For a long time, Zildjian has just been about cymbals. That's our core business, and now we've branched out into the acoustic electronic cymbals, but we're really excited about the merger of bringing Vic Firth together with Zildjian. Zildjian being #1 in cymbals, Vic Firth being #1 in drumsticks. We both manufacture here in the United States. We're both family-owned business, and geographically we're both in the Boston area. So it's just working wonderfully.